Disney cartoons shaped many childhoods in the 90s, but that didn't stop them from throwing in a lot of jokes that flew right over our heads as kids. I'm Keefe Nosy with Wicked Binge, and these are 90s Disney Channel animation adult jokes, cleanest to dirtiest. Weirdly enough, we're starting this video out with perhaps the most innocent Disney property imaginable, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Look on the bright side, bunny boy. When Rabbit barricades himself and his garden from all outside agitation, he quickly realizes he might be stuck in there for the rest of his life. Tigger, well-meaning as he is, tells him to look on the bright side.
Maybe you won't live that long.
That is an impressively dark joke coming from Winnie the Pooh, and I respect it. Christopher Robin's Strange Dreams. Although not particularly inappropriate, Christopher Robin's imagination got the Pooh gang into some odd situations. In one episode, they're inspired by Godzilla to make their own version of the iconic horror film. In another, Piglet befriends a sentient shadow and has to brave a dark, creepy forest to find him when he runs away. In another, they're freaking arrested.
Come out with your hands up!
Pooh has been to prison. Let that sink in. The dirtiest moment. In the episode Cleanliness is Next to Impossible, Pooh and Piglet are straight up kidnapped by a monster named Crud, the manifestation of filthiness. It's nothing unsuitable for children, but seeing such innocent characters as Pooh Bear, Tigger, and their friends taking on an actual monster is certainly unusual. So, Winnie the Pooh action movie when? Hey, anything's better than... No, I'm not gonna say it. Let's rescue us from that thought by moving on to Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Classic character design influences. Did you know that Chip 'n Dale's outfits were inspired by other iconic characters? Chip's coat and fedora give Indiana Jones vibes, while Dale's red and yellow Hawaiian shirt a la Magnum P.I. Though personally, while they came long before, that shirt reminds us of a certain character from a very different show. Giggity.
Giggity.
An Alien reference? Even a show as tame as this couldn't resist a much less gory, much more purple reference to the classic monster from Alien, complete with a spoof of Agent Ripley. We all make mistakes, officer. In Fake Me to Your Leader, some police end up running into what would seem to be a changing room during an investigation, at least judging by the high-pitched scream that follows.
Sorry, man.
They're lucky those ladies didn't decide to call the police. Wait. Unusual insults. The show also uses some insults that, while innocent enough for the kids, might take double meanings for the adults in the room, such as Nut Muncher, for example.
What have you done with it, you diminutive nut muncher?
Put Dale down.
Is that even really an insult to a chipmunk? That's like calling a person food chewer. Mole x Wart OTP. When Chip and Dale dress as ladies, Mole and Wart are smitten enough to go in for some kisses. Naturally, the Rangers move out of the way, leading Fat Cat's minions to regrettably share an unexpected and unwanted kiss. Oh, it gets weirder. In another episode, Chip and Dale both try to kiss Gadget, but you guessed it, she evades it. This results in, take a wild guess. Okay, that's enough guessing. Hands off the merchandise. When Dale and Gadget switch bodies for an episode, plenty of horrified covering up the private parts jokes are made. Of course, Dale laments how he wanted to be closer with Gadget.
But not this close.
The next tale on our list is Tailspin, one of the less talked about shows from the 90s Disney lineup. Pop culture references galore. Aside from the obvious factor of the characters being reimagined variations of the cast of The Jungle Book, Tailspin has a lot of references to media the parents are more likely to recognize. There's a myriad of nods to Indiana Jones, a spoof on the classic Monty Python parrot sketch, and of course the entire character of Rebecca Cunningham, obviously based on Rebecca Howe from Cheers. Literal BS. In another episode, Baloo responds to Seymour's questionable claim that he's using excellent fertilizer with some sarcastic agreement.
Fast-growing tropical hybrid, sir. I have special fertilizers.
The insult here comes from the fact that fertilizer is literally bullshit, so it's not something you'd want to be associated with that quickly, of course. Mind your business, Kit. When Kit asks Baloo if he can conjugate verbs,
That is none of your business.
unless he's weirdly private about his grammar skills, he'd probably assumed it was some kind of sexual innuendo, which is supported by the fact that he has a lamp designed with a shirtless hula girl. Jane is a savage. Airplane Jane and Baloo get their hands on one of those iconic two-piece horse costumes. Jane's instructions are simple.
I'll be the head, and you can just be yourself.
AKA, he'll be the horse's butt. Smooth insult. Would have been even better if it were a donkey costume, though. The Thembrians. The Thembrians are among the show's antagonists, and given their outfits, distinctive accents, and notoriously cruel punishments, it's clear they were meant to be a Russian stereotype, most notably a Stalinist one.
You are under arrest, playing in snow.
There's a more infamous stereotype, though. In the episode Last Horizons, when Baloo visits the country of Pandala, he's taken in by their charm and ultimately ends up tangled in a plot to take over Cape Suzette.
Prepare to surrender to the might of Pandala!
This portrayal of Asian people was a little controversial already, but tack on allusions to the Pearl Harbor attacks of World War II, and you have a recipe for an episode that was controversial enough to take off of Disney+. A Kidnapper's Karma. The episode Ransom of Red Chimp is one of the most memorable for a mature audience. When Carnage tries to kidnap Louie's Aunt Louise, he finds himself on the receiving end of much unwanted affection.
Oh, is that right? Well, okay, tough guys, show your pallid pussies.
It's like that episode of Rocko's Modern Life where Mrs. Bighead tries to seduce Rocko, except, you know, the seductress is a kidnapping victim, so you're kind of rooting for her at that point. All's bare in Love and War. In the second to last episode, they also name drop the Great War, being what World War I was called before there was a second one.
The Great War ended 20 years ago.
This means that the series likely takes place between World War I and II, and even more concerningly, since the character comments that it ended 20 years ago, that would place it around 1938, 1 year before Germany invaded Poland and kicked off World War II. Tough break, Baloo. If you're a scheming villain, you'd best beware our next entry, Darkwing Duck. Introductory lines.
And the wrong number that wakes you at 3 a.m.
One of Darkwing Duck's most memorable traits is the absolute fire this man spits before kicking some villain butt. Some of our favorites are...
And the batteries that are not included. I'm the neuroses that requires a $500 an hour shrink.
And my personal favorite.
I am the rhinestones on the jumpsuit of justice. I am Darkwing Duck.
Adopticon. The episode Adopticon might ring a little familiar to any old school movie buffs. It's based on the crime comedy movie Lady Killers, in which a man unwittingly helps several criminals into the house of a kind old lady they intend to rob. Oompa means what? When an alien guard tells Darkwing that Launchpad and the princess are going to Oompa...
Hey, you watch your language.
How do we say this? He thought they were gonna Oompa in the Loompa.
I'm afraid your planet is not ready for that information.
It was me, Darkwing. Negaduck. Man, they were cutting him close with that name, huh?
I am the screeching fingernail of the chalkboard of justice.
Is one of many references throughout the series to the classic superhero, The Flash. He's based on Reverse Flash, one of Barry Allen's most iconic foes. From his color scheme to the endless, almost comical grudge he holds against his opposite-colored counterpart, he certainly does justice to his inspiration. Hot Spells. It almost seems like having at least one banned episode in your series is like a rite of passage for 90s cartoons. The Darkwing Duck episode, Hot Spells, only aired one time before being pulled. The plot involves Beelzebub, a Satan-like character using a biblical name for the Prince of Demons, kidnapping Darkwing for his own nefarious purposes.
'Cause you got company.
Even for a Halloween special, this got dark, so we're not too surprised it was too intense to keep around for long. A very unusual parody. The episode Twin Beaks is a spoof on the show Twin Peaks, a show that no child should be watching. Despite this, there's a reference to an iconic scene where a character's dead body is found sealed in a plastic bag and sent into the ocean. In other words, they showed a freaking corpse in the episode. With that lovely note, let's move on to a much more lighthearted romp with The Adventures of Gummy Bears, a cameo in Darkwing Duck. Okay, maybe we aren't moving on yet after all. In one scene, there's a plushie of Zummy in the background. Easy to miss, but a pretty cute little nod, especially considering many animators on Darkwing Duck worked on this series beforehand. Toadwart's Binge. The only noteworthy adult joke we could find was a scene in which Toadwart chugs an entire cake of gummy berry juice, leading to a very interesting mental state.
Well, I'll tell you when I've had enough.
Now we've got a whole new world of jokes. This is Aladdin, the animated series, of course, not the movie. What is wrong with Jasmine? This isn't really a joke, but okay, so the series takes place after Aladdin and Jasmine are engaged, but before they're married, which begs the question, why is he still homeless? You cannot tell me there isn't one spare bedroom in that huge palace. Jeez, Jasmine. Bad dreams. When Abu and Iago awaken to realize they've been snuggled up together, they're immediately horrified. Iago even desperately tells himself it was all a bad dream.
Just a bad dream. Just a bad dream.
Huh, just how detailed was that bad dream, Iago? Now we move on to what might be the most iconic Disney cartoon of all time, DuckTales. Woo! Thanks for the compliment? When a young Scrooge is in jail, one of the Beagle Boys compliments his skirt. It's a kilt.
Ma would kill for a pretty skirt like that, and she has.
Keep your distance, Scrooge. Illuminati confirmed? Wow, that one is a throwback. In one episode, an eye test chart reads, "Ask about Illuminati," a cheeky nod to the whole Illuminati's everywhere conspiracy theory. Donald has a very good time. Donald returns to the Navy after being hypnotized by Cinnamon Teal, and when a fellow sailor sees him wide-eyed as a result, he comments comments on how he must have really had a good time.
Speechless, huh? Whoa, you did have a good time.
The fun part is wondering what combination of sex, drugs, and whatever else he was imagining. Next, we visit the iconic duo from The Lion King, Timon and Pumbaa. Stand by me, Pumbaa. One of the most memorable scenes in this show is Timon's cover of Benny King's Stand By Me. The song is more likely to be recognized by an older audience, but the message of Timon and Pumbaa's loyalty is sweet regardless. If only poor Pumbaa wasn't getting absolutely throttled in the background. Footsie, hard mode. In the episode Stay Away From My Honey, Timon tries to get Pumbaa's attention while he's out to dinner with Smolder and Leslie. He ends up tapping both Pumbaa and Smolder's feet, both of whom believe it's Leslie playing a game of footsie, which is a subtle way of showing romantic or sexual attraction. So, what an awkward conversation that must have turned into. An easy A. When Pumbaa's teasing Timon through a manhood test, Timon offers him a cake as a bribe. Initially, Pumbaa refuses, since he shockingly doesn't like cake, but when a lady pops out, he changes his tune pretty quickly. Everyone likes some kind of cake after all. Pumbaa's seduction techniques. Pumbaa's solution to a strong billy goat guard, a billy guard if you will, is to dress as a female goat and show some skin, fur, to distract him.
This never fails.
The weirdest part is that it works. We now move on to one of Disney's most admittedly bizarre cartoons. This is Gargoyles. Gargoyle gun safety. In a shockingly mature twist of events, one episode of this series is literally just about gun safety. Broadway goes after guns, gun users, gun dealers, etc., assuming they're the sole problem, but it ultimately tells a story of the importance of safety using guns.
I was playing with the gun. Stupid of me.
For a kids show, that's surprisingly nuanced. A lot of mature themes for a kids show. Gun safety isn't the only example either. Gargoyles is about a race of humanoid monsters who hide themselves for fear of society's reaction to them, kind of like Ninja Turtles almost. As such, it explores themes of racism, xenophobia, violence, crime, and just a lot of deeper issues, rather than the black and white good guy versus bad guy thing you usually see in kids' action cartoons. An understandable observation. When Fox tells Xanados that she'll go change for their evening, he watches her leave the room. Yes, he watches very closely. In his defense, they are engaged. One could definitely argue he has every right to enjoy the view. Next up we have not one, not two, not 102, but 101 Dalmatians, the series. He really loved that game show host. Steven the Alligator mentions his love for a game show host.
I love a game show host.
It's always good to support your heroes and, oh, you just spit out a microphone. I mean, loving to eat him is still technically loving him, right? What scorching language! Lucky and Scorch end up shipwrecked on a desert island in the episode Shipwrecked.
Great.
Truly shocking, I know. But even more shocking is the unintelligible language Scorch shouts at Lucky with when the latter blames him for the marooning. I mean, none of us know what he said, but it sure seemed profane. Whizzer lives up to his name. Taking a whiz is slang for going number one in the bathroom. That being considered, Whizzer has earned his title.
Stop this bus! Somebody get me a change of shoes.
On at least 2 occasions, he's marked his territory on Cruella's clothing.
Cruella, no, not Whizzer. Oh.
One of which was in the Christmas special. Is nothing sacred to you, Whizzer? Swamp Rat's dastardly deal. One time, Swamp Rat tried to take advantage of the puppies' naivete by selling them the official Barking Codebook, which is revealed to actually be a magazine called Erotica, with a suggestively posed rat lady on the cover. It's a cute pun on the words erotica and rat. Less cute, however, is the implication that this rat was pretty much trying to sell a Playboy to some children. Not cool, man. Since we're in the neighborhood, why not continue the theme of lovable pets? This is the Shookums and Meat funny cartoon show. No lawsuits here, Shookums. In one episode, Shookums loses his temper and tries to attack Toulouse the poodle. Thankfully, Meat is there to stop him, telling him that would surely result in a lawsuit.
Easy, Shookums. That's a lawsuit.
I mean, he's not wrong. It wouldn't be the first time an overly violent animal resulted in some level of legal problems for its animators. Not the cocktail you expected. Shookums and Meat eat a jar of expired cocktail weenies. You know, the kind you put in Pigs in a Blanket.
Are cocktail weenies supposed to be blue, Shookums?
They end up hallucinating and stumbling around as if they've actually been intoxicated by a different kind of cocktail. Don't try this at home, kids. Seriously, expired meat is dangerous. Now let's take a bit of a recess to talk about, well, recess. A Halloween anthology. The Simpsons may hold the most well-known Halloween anthology specials, but Recess had one too. In the Halloween episode, 3 parodies of supernatural movies are featured: The Hound of the Baskervilles, Maximum Overdrive, and Night of the Living Dead.
Oh no, the bike cut the power!
We're gonna guess the kids in the audience probably didn't see those.
Nothing wrong with that.
Stick to your friends, TJ. The episode Economics of Recess is one of those that hits way harder as a grown-up. Often, coming across big money changes people.
Candy.
When TJ Detweiler wants candy, he wants candy. Not excuses, no go.
And we see this happen when TJ starts owning and trading stickers to become the richest kid on campus. It's a cautionary tale. Money is there to be used, not hoarded. Pop culture and history tributes. Various episodes of the series reference old school movies and even actual historical events. The episode A Genius Among Us sees a parody of Good Will Hunting. Both are about geniuses who prefer lower paying jobs where they're actually fulfilled and happy. On the historical side, enter King Gus. When Gus becomes king, two girls approach him fighting over a doll. A reference to a biblical story where King Solomon settles a dispute between two women over a baby by demanding that the baby be cut in half. The mother is quick to hand the baby over to the other woman, which Solomon concludes means that she's the real mother since she was worried about her baby's safety. Gus does the same with this doll, except he gives the doll to the wrong girl.
But my liege, you gave it to the other girl.
Oops.
Hey, not everyone's gifted with wisdom, man. You can't insult religion. We're Disney. The episode Swing On Through to the Other Side was almost canned by Disney executives for being a critique of religion. Bloomberg decided to go through with it anyway. Rather than a critique of religion, it's more of a critique on the manipulative, culty side of things. That's just cold war. When Mikey's build threatens to rip his pants, Gretchen helps by giving him a pair of pants made from titanium alloy used to craft spaceships in the Soviet Union, which rip anyway.
Whoa, where'd you get that stuff?
I traded for them over the internet.
This might simply seem like a lol he chunky joke, but given the time this series came out in, adults probably got a chuckle out of the fact that this kid's cartoon just subtly roasted Soviet spacecrafts.
Should have gotten some thread from the Soviet Union.
Don't pull our boy Mikey into your global conflict though, come on. A flagpole that tall is unseemly. Principal Prickly takes the kids to his brother's school for a game of kickball. When he sees his tall flagpole, he immediately grows defensive and calls it unseemly.
I think a flagpole that large is unseemly.
You might say his brother's compensating for something, but honestly, Prickly seems like the one who wants to compensate here.
Nice flagpole. Of course, mine's bigger.
In front of the children, Miss Finster. When Miss Finster hitches a ride on Hank's vibrating floor scrubber, she giggles with glee on what the kids assume is like a fun carnival ride. Those of older age get a different message. You're better than this, Hank. Did they just... In the episode, The Great Jungle Gym Standoff, Spinelli says the last one on top of Old Rusty has to give Miss Finster a sponge bath. Jokingly, of course, there's no way they'd actually...
Hey, that's my job.
Randall, what the hell? Next up, we have the show Pepper Ann. Cleverly hidden swear. In The Big Pencil, Dieter's project is the classic baking soda volcano.
Packs enough explosive power to knock me on my
Asphalt. When
What? Well, we'll never know. Before he finishes that sentence, Trinket starts his show off with the word asphalt. That's almost too obvious, guys. How did that get there? Eddie isn't the only cartoon character who enjoys a dirty magazine here and there. Pepper Ann gives Milo some manly magazines to look at, one of which is called Play Dude.
How did that get in here?
A blatant parody of Playboy. But how did that get there? Wrong kind of support. The episode In Support Of sees Pepper Ann terrified at her coach's advice of getting support while on the trampoline.
We're really gonna be bouncing around out there, so those of you who need support, get it by Monday. Okie dokie?
This leads to an episode full of double entendres about breasts, only for the support to ultimately mean having a buddy to hold on to.
Pepper and Pearson, you are woman.
Growing up is scary, but at least going up on a trampoline is manageable, right? Millicent's singles meet. In one episode, a recurring character, Millicent the Militant, tells Pepper Ann that she's going to a singles meet. Later, she returns with trashed makeup and clothes, hiccups, and a sombrero. There was definitely drinking, and at least like 40 other things involved that night. And you know what? We can't even begin to theorize about them without making this video totally age restricted, so I'm not going to. Ah, right when they got interesting. When Pepper Ann and friends are looking through Chuck's old love letters to Lydia, they find that they all cut off right when they start to get interesting.
Uh-oh.
Not only were these letters dirty enough for Lydia to cut out the raw details, just in case, she doesn't even try to answer her daughter's question.
Oh, cut out just when they start to get interesting.
She just straight up leaves. Honestly, that's probably the best response she could have had. Next is a show called Mickey Mouse Works. I mean, I'd hope he does. He's been the mascot for how long now? Lock Picky Mouse. The episode Locksmiths sees Mickey using a lockpick to enter a lot of previously inaccessible doors, one of which leads to an awkward encounter during Clarabelle Cow's shower. Maybe it's best not to tell Goofy about that one. There's nothing goofy about aggravated assault. When a cameraman tells Goofy to pull his pants up,
It's obvious to me now that a clumsy, naive rube like you could never get into a gentleman's club like that.
Goofy responds by attacking him with a club. We'd make a joke, but honestly, we're more so just curious. How do you manage to get on Goofy's hit list? I can explain. Donald chases runaway baby Shelby through a store, resulting in not one, but two awkward encounters with Daisy, both of which involve him unintentionally sporting ladies' clothes.
It's true!
Daisy is horrified to realize Donald's been living a bizarre double life. I mean, you do you, Donald. Just maybe don't hide it from your wife. Actually, don't do you, Donald. Well-intentioned though he may be, when Donald suspected a very tall lady duck was Huey, Dewey, and Louie in disguise to ride a dangerous ride, he rips off her clothes, only to discover that it was not, in fact, his sons in disguise, and that Donald would, in fact, be asked to leave the amusement park. For our second to last show, let's almost finish strong with Hercules, the animated series. James Bond reference. James Bond is one of those properties you don't even have to have seen in order to reference. Hercules doesn't even have a last name, at least we don't think he does.
That's because it's a secret.
Yet even he's able to use Bond's iconic introduction.
Please. Hercules. And you are?
An insult of godlike proportions. When Hecate compliments Ares on what he's been doing with Sparta, he's quick to brag to the goddess Athena, who tells him to go polish his spear.
You hear that, sis?
Oh, go polish your spear.
Either she was insinuating that he should go screw himself, or that his spear was not adequately shiny. Whichever one is worse is really up to the insulted. Icarus's pluck and run. When Icarus dives into a bush of berries in the hopes of healing Hercules' totally not made up disease, he remarks that it's time to pluck and run.
Time to pluck and run.
Really gives tree hugger a new, less environmentally friendly meaning. Attention, dwellers of the nether regions. Shout out to Icarus's method acting skills. He takes his role as Hades pretty seriously. That said,
Ladies and gentlemen, dwellers of the nether regions.
Please never word it like that again. One of the most clever puns we've ever seen. In one of many cameos over the course of the series, the ancient author Homer, who you might recognize as the man who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey,
Get this high school rivalry stuff. We need a war, a 10-year war between city-states.
is played by Dan Castellaneta, aka Homer Simpson's voice actor. For even thinking of that connection, they earned that cameo. The Curse of Circe. Adonis and Hercules end up in a shouting match when Circe comes to town, turning both of them into animals. Despite being the object of her definitely not affection, Adonis still feels like it's believable to say he lasted 5 minutes with her.
So, I hear you only lasted 5 minutes. Loser!
No comment.
I had to try a different kind of guy. Ugh, what a mistake.
Adonis's Bacchanal. In one episode literally titled Hercules and the Bacchanal, Adonis throws a party called a Bacchanal,
And I really wanted to go.
which the very first Google definition describes as an occasion of wild and drunken revelry. Translation? Yeah, sure, it's an orgy. In a kid's cartoon, they had a character planned to throw an orgy. Fantastic. Wingman Hercules. Hercules proves himself a real buddy by going to Aphrodite to help set up Icarus and Cassandra.
Is in love with my other best friend?
Wait, are they both human?
She has to make him clarify that both are human, a reference to the various cases of bestiality in Greek mythology. It makes one wonder how many gods went to her trying to get hookups with animals.
When are you people going to learn? Love is like plumbing, okay? It's very complex, usually messy, and best left to professionals.
Wait, they're gods, right? Why did they need to? The questions will never end if we don't let them. So let's end this video with a few more jokes from Disney's Doug. For you Nicktoons buffs out there, these jokes are only from episodes of the Disney series, not the Nickelodeon originals. That's not adulting Doug. Doug desperately wants to grow up and be seen as mature in one episode. Resultingly, he puts a suit on and tries to talk to his dad about adulthood, and also slaps his mom's butt and compliments his dad on marrying her.
That's a fine little lady you got there, Phil. Hang on to her.
You guys might want to get him a counselor. Oh, that's forward. In the episode Doug's Secret Christmas, Doug just straight up tells his father he learned about sex in school.
I learned all that stuff in school.
You did?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it is a real thing. Still pretty forward for a kid's show, though. Strange things are happening to Connie. The kids at school are also learning that changes happen to their bodies at a certain age. And considering all the boys whistling at Connie's changes, it's safe to say the process has begun. The Be careful, kids. Have some decency, Cleopatra. One of Doug's many imagination sequences sees him fantasizing about Cleopatra betraying him, and after shedding her costume, appears as naked for a brief moment, quickly covering up. Okay, seriously, someone needs to get Doug some more hobbies. For the grand finale, some blatant profanity. In the episode Doug Gets It All, Guy isn't too fond of Doug's concept for the school yearbook cover, muttering, "A bunch of jackasses," under his breath. Guy is so angry he forgot that he was on a kids network. Must have really hated that yearbook cover, huh?